Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Story number 1, GPMG, written by Doth Hath Depression. Alad, Afon. The two brothers embraced each other, both clinging to what seemed like a ghost that had risen from the grave. A cruel, yet wonderful trick for the heavens to play upon them. Alad, I thought you were dead, but the rumors of Tarawood's keeps destruction false. I'd heard that the humans had flattened it with unnatural force, that there were no survivors found in what was left that wasn't rubble. He spouted, shaking, nearly crying in relief of his siblings' safety. What about you? I had heard the 4th and 5th Pike battalions were demolished when they came up against the human tanks. I didn't know it was even possible to survive an encounter from what I've heard and seen. You know these monsters by name? This was too much for Afon to handle. Not only had his brother returned from the grave, he was looking better than the last time they had met. Wasn't he a prisoner of war? There were no signs of torture. He seemed well fed and rather healthy, and now he was speaking in a tongue of their sworn enemy. I can see you're confused and quite lightly, but I believe we have catching up to do as family, replied Alad. He seemed strangely at ease in regards to his current status. Afon needed to know what had happened, and so Alad told him. He talked about huge steel birds that floated through the air, screaming and wailing, turning the ground below to a burning plain of rubble and ash. He talked about arrowhead-shaped creatures, the size of Virums, then struck across the sky, spitting lightning, and how they could cripple greater dragons in one blow. He talked about huge metal rods that pointed towards the sky and summoned death upon any in their way, as well as how the humans had treated the captives with respect and kindness, regardless of magical or not. By the time he finished, Afon was entranced in a spiraling combination of wonder and fear. The humans could punch holes through golems and wipe out entire armies, yet would treat prisoners of war in such a way. Such attitudes were unheard of even in less competitive races, let alone these mockeries of nature. This had to be a lie, some cruel prank cast by the humans. He would soon see past the charade and witness the true nature. Each train of thought was broken by an armed human shouting at their group, not threateningly as far as their language went, but so that all were made aware of it. Last meal. We can talk more later. For now we should go and eat. Look at you, the rations must be getting really bad. You look half-starved. Alad spoke so casually of prison food that it almost seemed like he was looking forward to it. What could one look forward to, though? The rations of the non-magical folk were pathetic on good days. How could a person stand what prisoners were meant to eat? Fish. Almost an entire fish, minus for its head, but enough to cover half his plate, and was covered in some kind of crispy shell. Also, serving it on a white, smooth plate. Surely only nobles would be fed in such a way. Next to the fish was a quarter of the plate's portion of golden oblong shapes, maybe some kind of vegetable, and fresh vegetables filling the final quarter. Food fit for a lord or a general for sure, yet given to lowly magicless prisoners. The world surely had gone mad. What was most surprising was the second plate given to them. It was some sort of baked spongy mat of brown confectionery, and it smelled divine. Accompanying these was a cup made of strange material filled with some kind of sweet juice. Why would they waste such precious food on them? It didn't matter for how long, as he demolished everything in his path, drowning out the blissful euphoria of a hearty meal. After all were done eating, they were taken back to the huts of the fenced compound and given time to prepare for sleep. Perhaps, if we're lucky tomorrow, we might be able to watch the humans practice during our break, Alad said, with such glee To watch the humans practice so that they could go off and destroy more of his own kind with the strange devices and weapons. Then again, Afon had never seen how human weapons worked. Maybe a quick look wouldn't hurt. The humans were spaced out in a line, facing wooden targets about 1/4 of a Fey mile away. Each had a rod and was lying on his belly, pointing at the wooden boards. 3 cracks could be heard, as each rod spouted a little burst of smoke and flame. At that very moment, 3 of the targets had holes blown through them. This much accuracy, at this range, impossible. Then they repeated, blasting flame at a steady pace. Even the most skilled bowmen could not draw their bows that fast, let alone with such accuracy. Then a larger metal device was placed down, standing on 3 legs. 2 humans positioned themselves next to it, and it roared to life, rocking forwards and backwards, the cracking sound repeating in tenfold, completely demolishing the wooden targets that lay before them. It was horrifying to think that mere foot soldiers were given such weapons to spread terror and destruction to all in their way. It was this that had wiped out the pike formation, cutting them down like wheat to the wrath of a farmer's scythe. And here he stood, watching it, like a child watched a soldier draw his sword and strike at a straw man. "What is that, Allard?" His words were almost lost to the sound. "The humans call it a GPMG. It roughly translates into a mechanical weapon for all purposes." How was he so casual about this? Such weapons allowed soldiers to rival mages. That was it. The world had gone insane. He gave up. There was no escaping his fate now. If the humans wanted the kingdom, they could have it. He carried on with the work the humans had gave him, content in forgetting this madness. End of story. Story number 2. The humans don't know. They hope. Written by Cal Bynes. We were wrong about humans, and not by their strength or their intellect. Those were well known. They were planned for over months. Not any flaw in that math. The problem was so different, so alien to us. At first we thought that we had overestimated their intellect. Despite all of our best prediction models, something had to be off about their intelligence. But as the war dragged on, we thought that they were getting dumber, if anything. That's what it looked like to us. What creature would use their flagship to defend even 100 others' escape? What sane species would leave legions on a planet as their fleet left? What being would detonate a grenade in their hand before letting their position fall? And how did it work? Either they had to have a hidden rival of ours in the background helping, or we were wrong. We were, of course, but not about what we thought. Somehow, almost every one of those seemingly insane moves worked. Those ships that were saved at the loss of a flagship came back and hit our fleet even harder. That legion left on the planet held it until we had to bombard them from orbit, destroying every resource left on that planet in the process. That single grenade took out dozens of soldiers, giving the humans defending enough time to push forward, holding their position another day longer. It took me a while to see, combing over every piece of footage off of helmet cameras and drones, painstakingly scraping through audio files. I spent almost a year on the subject before I realized what we didn't account for, why they managed to turn everything around. There wasn't a hidden ally helping them, some flaw in our predictive models because of a misinput or using the wrong variable for their intelligence. The humans didn't know anything. The admiral of their fleet didn't know if the rest of their ships would get out, whether or not they would be able to fight or even turn the tide of another battle another day. The soldiers left in hell didn't know how long they would be able to hold. They didn't know if they could delay us long enough for rescue, or if they would force us to almost destroy the planet to kill them. The soldier holding the grenade didn't know if it would save his siblings in arms, whether he would take any of us down with him, whether his death would mean anything. Every one of the great feats wasn't planned. They weren't calculated. They didn't even think most of them would work. But they did it anyways. They threw planets, ships, lives, themselves into the fray, not carelessly, but with hope. Some faint hope that their sacrifice would change it all, that it would at least just give their race another chance, another second. They still don't know. Those dead humans will never know. They knew they would never know. That's what separates the humans from us. They don't need calculations. They don't need percentages or anything concrete. They just need hope. And that's enough. End of story. The algorithm reckons you should be watching this video next, and I recommend that you should be always watching my video. So, click with energy! And yes, clicking that does help the channel. Thank you very much. I would just quickly like to give thanks to our Tier 5 members: Elithia, Barky, Feudicuel, Meridian117, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Albarden Gusta, Savage Patch Papa, and Lord Azrakal.